Okay, thanks for joining me again. This is the part of the video where I give you my thoughts and feelings about the game, Seventh Continent. Now, to start with, I've only got the tutorial island, which you will start the game at. Whether or not you will be able to skip that when you get the full game after playing it several times, I'm not sure what's going to happen. There might be a point where you can just jump straight to that card. But this is a tutorial to give you a taste of how the game works and how it plays, and I think it's pretty good. The game really is designed for those of us who love choose your own adventure books. It really feels like a choose your own adventure. Now, I've played this several times on my own solo, and I've played it once as a co-op with a friend, and the differences are very few and far between. Obviously, when you've got working with other people, it is cooperative, unless there's an alpha gamer there who will just tell you what to do and what not to do because they've played it before and they know that there's something there. This game could quite easily fall into the alpha gamer syndrome, more than a lot of games, unfortunately. But as a solo game, I found it worked really well. It was a book. Okay, and the differences between the book and the game are that there are random events, whereas in this, you get so far and you die, you start again. You get so far, you died there, so you're going to go something different, and then you die, and then it's the same thing over and over again. Whereas with the game, the layout of the world is going to be the same every time, but there's going to be the fog of war random events, which will spice up the game a tad. And then you've got the cards which are that are different to the others. So, for example, there might be 3 number 52s, and when you explore, you draw one of those 3 52s, and it might be anything. It might be any kind of event that happens, but it's not totally random. That's the thing I found with this, is that there are elements of it where there are plenty of clues to tell you what's coming up ahead. Whereas sometimes in these books, I would just die all of a sudden because I don't know why. I just turned to the wrong paragraph and then I died. Whereas in this, I don't feel that will happen. This is a case of there's clues on the card, there's evidence of what kind of direction this could go in, and so you go into it trepidatiously, or you avoid it. And there's obviously normally good events or bad events. Whereas in this, I've had in these kind of books, I've had those experiences where there's been no clues. There's something up ahead. What do? Do you touch it? Do you lick it? Do you punch it? And I do it, or I don't do it, and I either miss out on something good, or I just die unexpectedly. So this game has plenty of clues in it. There's plenty of clues on the artwork. There's stuff which is hidden. There's numbers that are hidden on the cards that will make you replace that card with that number, and it will open up something. You found something else in the lay of the land. You go, oh look, there's that over there, which I think is a fantastic idea. The fact that there's tiny little pictures and icons, and the fact that later on in the game you will gain, it's not intelligence, but you will gain information that will say, oh, if you see this plant will cure you from poison, or if you see this tree, it will offer you food so you can restore 2 cards from the discard pile. Those kind of things just make the game bigger and better. Again, with the items that you have, if you made the right items, that's going to open up another set of pathways for you which you might not have had and walked down before. So the replayability, I was, and a little bit still am, trepidatious about. It's, especially when you know the layout of the land. But from the little things that I've seen, I can see that maybe later on in the game there's going to be a lot more things to explore, and different routes that you're going to go down, and different events which are going to happen to you. So you might find something, again, it's useful there, and then you may go there in the next game and it you find nothing there. So later on in the game, you can't get past a point because you didn't find that item there because it wasn't there and it's somewhere else now. This game has so many possibilities. It just feels a great kind of open world exploring game. It does feel, I hate to say this, but it does feel like Oblivion, the Elder Scrolls. You know, you got your tutorial island, you start here, or you start in the prison, and then they introduce this and that. There's nothing too dangerous in the tutorial which is going to kill you unless you do something really stupid, like what I've done already. But I can see this being the tutorial, being the prison, escaping, and then you open the gates, and then there's this massive world that you can explore. Again, Oblivion doesn't really change much, it just changes in where you go and what you do and who you speak to, and I feel that this game kind of closely represents that, and I'm excited because I like Oblivion and Skyrim and Fallout and all that stuff, so this appeals to me as well. So randomness, I think, is a lot more gives the game a lot more replayability, and again with the world going in different directions, because you have 3 different curses and 6 different curses if you buy the extensions, and so you're going to be going in different ways, and the fact that you can choose how many curses you put into your story is another good thing which is going to make it interesting, because you might find that there's 2 curses that are right next to each other, or 2 curses which are at polar extremities, and I think that's going to open up the replayability tenfold. I'm looking forward to that a lot. I was talking about solo and cooperative. Cooperative was quite fun. I'd already known what the layout of the land was, so I kind of like let the other player decide where we go. It did still feel quite balanced. You're holding less cards, you can only make less items, but it was interesting to see how we worked. Did we do things together? Did we not do things together? I don't know how it will play out in the full game. Personally, I'm just looking forward to playing this game solo, or maybe with my daughter, and the fact that it says that you can have players drop in and drop out, which is a great thing. How it's going to work though in regards to the discard pile and the draw pile of your action cards, I don't know, but I look forward to reading how that's going to work. The rulebook that I got is very, very condensed, and it was very, very hard to digest. Hopefully with time they will get a better rulebook written, and they will just try to expand things a lot more and go into a bit more detail, because there were things that, like the crafting of items, which didn't really make much sense, and then there was things like when you take an injury card, that didn't make too much sense either. There were lots of things that didn't make sense, and after they were explained, and then I read the rules again, I could see like the one line in the middle of like the paragraph which stated what you had to do, and it was like, yeah, but it needs to be clearer. The artwork, as I said, is beautiful. There's lots of clues and everything there to help you get through the game. The mechanisms, they work really well. After a while you do start to feel the flow of the game. Everything that you need to know is written on the cards. Everything that you need to explore is written and drawn on the cards. This is an adventure of the mind. Whether or not the maps are going to be too big for your table is probably a problem which might come up depending on what size table you play on. If you play on a big table, you've probably got no worries, but if you've got a small table, then you might have a few problems. But I can't really see it being too much of a problem. If like the map starts going off in a direction close to the edge of the table, you can always slide the cards over, or you can remove like a zone which you don't wish to go back to. Hopefully there'll be lots of different zones, like what I showed you with the raft. There's the stairwell, and that means that basically what will happen is when you leave that area, everyone has to leave that area at the same time, and then that bit of the map is cleared and you start off on a new zone. Hopefully that will happen. There'll be like tunnels or mines, or there'll be a pathway between mountains which goes to like maybe the ice zone or the swamp zone in the expansions. So I'm not too worried about the table space because you can always adapt. The difficulty of the game, if you don't communicate with the other players, this game probably will be very difficult. If you are kind of very fly by the seat of the pants kind of person, this game could be difficult as well. You really have to conserve. It is a survival game. You have to use everything that you've got to the best of your ability, kind of like normal co-op games like Pandemic or Panschmemic, and other games that like Pandemic like. It is a case of evaluating every possible combination and thinking, well, maybe maybe we should save those cards. Maybe we should build that because I think that's going to come in handy. Maybe we should set a fire here and then whenever we catch food we go there and eat it and restore our health. There's lots of possibilities, and every time that you play it you'll have different objects set up. So that again will lead back into the randomization and the replayability of the game, because you're not always going to have the same objects that you start with. The character's special powers I'm a bit about. There's not much I can say. That's one thing which I'm thinking. I mean, because all the times that I've played 5 times, I've never used the character's special power to to delete an effect or anything like that. So I don't know. The card quality is very good at the moment. Again, this is a prototype. People have been saying about getting card sleeves for the cards, but seriously, how much is it going to cost for 1,000 card sleeves? How much space is it going to take up in the box? You know, if you are going to sleeve cards, you should just sleeve the ones that you're going to handle, which are the action cards. You shouldn't really need to sleeve the island cards or any of the other cards. And again, most of the cards are going to stay in the box most of the game. There'll be cards that come onto the table to create the map. They'll have your action deck and maybe some food cards or some red cards. You know, I don't see the problem with sleeving. It baffles me a bit. I mean, the cards are quite thick. I haven't got one here at hand to show you, but they are quite thick. They are quite sturdy. As I said, I've played it 5 times and the cards still look brand new at the moment. Yeah, I've got a nice table and I've got clean hands. Yeah, right, whatever. The mechanisms, as I said, are really solid, really easy to follow. It is just a case of following the numbers, making up your decision. There's the whole push your luck aspect with the energy cards, the action cards, which is really interesting. Do you really want to draw 5 cards to see if you pass that test? Or do you want to draw 2 cards and see if you pass that test? Because the distribution of stars in the action deck is very sporadic. There's about a couple cards which have 3 stars on it, and then there's a couple cards which have 2 stars on it, and then there's a lot of cards that have 1.5, and then there's a lot of cards which have 1, and then there's lots that have halves, and then there's the curse cards which have nothing. And there's, of course, there are some cards which just have a 7 on it, which means nothing unless you've got an item which lets you use the 7 as a success. And that's great, you know. There's this push your luck risk element, and tie that with the objects that you've built. That really works really well. You know, you could have built 2 objects and you do a test and you've got the object for it as well, which will help you, and it just kind of like makes sense. You know, you've got a walking stick which is going to help you walk a bit faster, so it's going to, you draw 1 card less every time you move. Or you've got the rope which lets you climb things, so if there's a climbing action you can get up there a lot more quickly and a lot more easier. The balancing mechanisms of when you're playing a co-op, when you're doing the push your luck, when you're doing it together, you can mitigate that luck and change the results of cards that you have to draw down, but it pushes the successes up. That is a really nice mechanic as well. It does really fit very well with the theme of the game, and it fits with, you know, there's 4 of us doing this test. We're gonna pass it easily. Again, moving around as a group is less risky, but it's more fun in a way. Especially, will players want to play it all together all the time? Will you want to walk around as a group and just go, like, let's all go over here, oh, let's all go and look at this, oh, let's go and fight that, oh, let's all go and do this? I don't know. I can't see the benefits of splitting up the team and keeping them together, if you know what I mean. But hopefully when the game does come out, we will see the benefits of either playing as a co-op and going everywhere, or playing as a co-op and just keeping together as a group and doing things. That's to be seen. I think I've covered pretty much everything, apart from the puzzles. That's another good thing that I'm looking forward to. Some of the cards have puzzles on them. Yeah, so you look at it and you go, okay, so I've got to figure out how to do this trap, and everything is visual, and that is what I like. Everything about this game is visual. There's clues on the cards for maybe there's tracks, maybe there's information, maybe there's hidden numbers, and then there's the traps. I mean, look at the cards. Try figuring out the puzzle and going in your head, hopefully there's a lot of these kind of puzzle trap things in the game, in the final version, because that will make the game interesting. Because it is like a, wait a minute, let's step out of the game a minute and try and figure this out. Right, if you go that way, so I'm looking forward to that, traps and whatnot. So, in summary, this game is plus for me, pour moi, parce que it is a choose your own adventure book manifest on your tabletop. So if you are a fan of this game is definitely up your street. If you're not a fan of this, then you might be alright enjoying this game. If this game just sounds too dull and too much like paperwork, then maybe this game is not for you. But from what I've played so far, I've really enjoyed it. And if I was to do a comparison, because there's time stories is pretty much the same thing. It's a story in a deck of cards, and when the party goes into one location, you use a certain amount of cards there, and that dictates the story. The difference between that and this is more freeform, whereas Time Stories is a bit more role-playing element to it, where you have to communicate with each other to get through the game. Whereas in this, you could just say, let's go there, do that, blah. This has got me a bit more excited than Toy Stories, Time Stories. But anyhow, I'm babbling now, and this video is probably 5 times as long as the other video that I did. So thanks for watching, and click on the Kickstarter link if you want to back the project. It's up there still. It's still up there. Yeah, it's still up there.